I used to work at an M&S store in the UK during the time this story is set. M&S is a fancy supermarket and a bit pricier than other places. I had been working there for about 2 years, and on this particular day, my shift was going as usual. I was operating the till at the counter, and it was a slow period, so there were fewer customers. I don't pay attention to every person in the store, and I can't see the bathroom area from where I stand, so I can't keep an eye on everyone passing through. Suddenly, a woman approached me with a basket, and I prepared to serve her. However, I noticed she had a very concerned look on her face. She seemed nervous and hurried as she got closer, so I switched into customer service mode. Before I could greet her, she asked me for help. At first, I thought she needed assistance finding a product, which I'm not technically allowed to do. I was about to explain that she should find one of my colleagues on the shop floor because I couldn't leave the till unattended. However, she surprised me by saying there was something wrong in the ladies' room. I asked if someone had an accident, but she shook her head and replied, "No, there's something creepy written in there." I reassured her not to worry and promised to handle it. I quickly called one of my coworkers, and the woman took them to the bathroom. They were gone for about half an hour, and when my coworker returned, I could tell something shocking had happened. I was expecting to hear about a mess on the floor or a strange message, but what she showed me on her phone was even wilder. The shop was still quiet, and she revealed a photo of the ladies' bathroom. Someone had written, "Place your sacrifice here," on the baby changing area. The unsettling message was written in a white and red marker, with an upside-down pinnacle drawn underneath the words in a darker shade of red. It wasn't blood. My coworker confirmed it was just a marker but sighed in frustration. Removing it from the white surface was a nightmare, and she had closed off the toilets to work on cleaning it completely. Taking a quick break, she showed me the photo and explained that she had informed her manager, who was checking the CCTV footage for anything suspicious. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any relevant information, as there were no cameras in the bathrooms. We couldn't determine when the graffiti was drawn, as no one had reported it until the woman approached me. I understood why it made her uncomfortable. It was indeed a disturbing situation. The incident left me feeling uneasy, even though it was clearly the work of a troll. What puzzled me was that our manager mentioned all the women who had used the bathroom seemed normal that day. They were well dressed and behaving typically. The toilets were regularly cleaned, and this happened in the afternoon, making it audacious for someone to graffiti when they could have been caught easily. I wondered if the person knew the store was quiet and took the opportunity to sneak in and carry out the act before slipping away. The whole situation was bizarre, but eventually it was cleaned up. When the lady who reported it came to pay for her shopping, I thanked her for letting us know. She shared that it had freaked her out, especially because she was pregnant herself. I reassured her that her reaction was completely understandable. The incident made me uncomfortable as well, and we made every effort to identify the person responsible. I knew there wasn't much we could do other than clean it up, but I tried to reassure the lady to make her feel better. So, in the end, we never found out who left the graffiti. It remains one of the weirdest things I ever experienced while working there. These events took place last year in my small town, on October 31st, 2022, during Halloween. I worked at the Orange grocery store in our town, which had recently lifted the mask ban for vaccinated individuals. We were also allowed to dress in costumes for our shift, following some company rules. I chose to dress as a Hogwarts student from the Harry Potter series, not as any of the main characters since I have short blonde hair with red streaks and sparkling green eyes. When people asked, I would say I was a Gryffindor, 6 years into my studies, juggling exams and this muggle job for extra money. The kids loved it, especially when I tapped their treat bags with mine, making candies appear. Thankfully, the parents played along, giving me enough time to perform my little magic act. Little did I know that fate had other plans for me on that night. My assistant manager, Claire, asked me to watch the 4 self-service lanes while she and Stacy set up the treat table at the store entrance for Halloween festivities from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Any costumed child with their parents could receive a bag of candies and coloring pages. I agreed and took my position. About 4 minutes later, a man arrived with a basket full of items and started scanning them at the self-service checkout. He seemed to struggle with some produce, so I approached him calmly and sweetly, asking, "Excuse me, sir, do you need any help?" However, he abruptly rounded on me and yelled,
"No, just get away from me and do your damn job, bitch!"
I took a step back, shocked by his reaction. I decided to check on the other 3 self-service lanes, which were not being used at the time. When I returned, I noticed he was still struggling, scanning the same item 3 times. Hoping to assist, I cautiously approached him. Before I could say anything, he turned and shouted,
"Stop bothering me! You're acting weird. I'm going to steal something."
I quickly moved out of his way, fearing he might hit me. I spotted Claire approaching and waved at her, whispering that the man was having trouble and had reacted aggressively when I offered help. Claire walked up to the man, but he raged at her too, accusing her of bothering him. Claire decided to call our manager, Bryce. Upon seeing Bryce approach, the man became even angrier, his face turning a shade of red I hadn't thought possible. The man continued his verbal onslaught, hurling insults at me and Claire, demanding our immediate firing. I stood back with Claire, allowing Bryce, our manager, to handle the situation. Despite his youthful appearance, Bryce was 34 and remained calm. He calmly told the man there was no need for such anger, and that he could either proceed to the service desk to finish checking out or leave. The man kept screaming, asserting his wealth and threatening to buy the store and fire us all. Unfazed, Bryce moved closer to the man and firmly stated,
"I don't care how rich you are. Get out of my store. You're not welcome here. Leave your items and get out before we call the police."
The man tried to argue, but Bryce repeated his stance. The man dropped his bags and stormed out, never to be seen again. Claire looked at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I smiled at her and replied, "Yeah, are you?" We both shared a laugh, relieved that the ordeal was over. Halloween is supposed to be a time for fun and creativity, but some people carry their unpleasant behavior throughout the year. On another occasion at Walmart, I was with my mom, eager to buy some LOL dolls. She was waiting in line, unable to accompany me. I pleaded with her to let me go alone, promising to be careful. Reluctantly, she agreed, trusting me to handle the task on my own. I don't blame her for what happened next. She's a good woman with a kind soul. As I browsed the toy section for the LOL dolls, a guy in his mid-20s from a distance asked if I was looking for Barbies, and he then told me the aisle that they were in. I was a little suspicious. I grew up hearing things on the news all the time since New Orleans isn't exactly the safest city. So I politely declined. And I went to where my toys were. I was choosing which one that I wanted to get. Taking my sweet time when I then felt something grazed my butt. I didn't even think anything of it. Because I didn't even know the role of bots back then. And I didn't see anything. So I just assumed it was just my imagination. It then happened again moments later, and I heard footsteps this time. I was starting to freak out and turn away, but my little dumb self just kept looking. The next time, however, the guy didn't just slap my butt again. He came up to me and then grabbed me a bit. Then slowly started lifting my skirt. I was at least wise enough to push them away and then run as fast as I could to my mom. I didn't know what sex was though, so I was only a little shaken. When they started pressuring me for answers on what the guy looked like and stuff is when I really started crying. I should mention that I really hate being yelled at. At this time, the police had already came and were interrogating me, but I couldn't remember a thing. I felt like I was in trouble and just felt like my whole world was spinning. I've always been a good girl, so I wasn't used to getting yelled at all. My dad came to the scene and then started yelling at the suspect that we're interviewing. I begged him to stop because I wasn't sure if this was even the right guy. And he also seemed innocent, but matched the description I gave. The guy was taken away and that was the last I heard of them. Really hope it was the right guy. But like I said, I don't even remember. I know I got away pretty lucky. But it's scary to think what could have happened if I didn't run. I'm glad that I did. Last year, during the peak of the pandemic, I accompanied my mom to the grocery store. I was avoiding my schoolwork and got bored quickly, like many teenagers do. I decided I didn't want to shop anymore and asked my mom if I could stay in the car to watch my sister. She agreed, but my sister didn't want to stay with me and started throwing a fit. To avoid dealing with my sister's complaints during the ride home, my mom eventually gave in and took her inside the store. After about 30 minutes in the car, my mom finally emerged from the store, and I was just about to jokingly say, "Took you long enough," but my words were cut off by the serious tone in her voice. She told me that something alarming had happened. I asked her what, my eyes widening, my gaze shifting to my oblivious sister, Mary. My mom proceeded to recount the incident. As they were walking through the heart of Walmart, where sports equipment was displayed, my mom felt an unsettling sensation, like she was being watched. Being cautious, she pretended to browse the items on a shelf, trying not to give away her alertness. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed two men, both around 5'10", wearing hoodies and baseball caps, which struck her as suspicious. Sensing something was off, she began to walk away. That's when she realized that one of the men was uncomfortably close to Mary, and the other was just inches behind her. Considering my sister was only 6 years old, my mom found their behavior deeply unsettling. Ready to confront the man behind her, my mom hesitated, reminding herself not to lose sight of Mary. She quickened her pace, leading them to a section of the store where more people were present. To her relief, the men stopped in their tracks and turned away. My mom breathed a sigh of relief and kept a close eye on her surroundings. Often I've wondered if things would have been different if I had gone into the store with my mom and sister, making them safer. I understand that these experiences were deeply unsettling for you and your family. It's important to prioritize safety and be cautious in such situations. In my early 20s, I went to Walmart for a grocery haul. I decided to grab some McDonald's before I started shopping because we all know you can't go grocery shopping on an empty stomach. After devouring my chicken nuggets, I began my shopping adventure. About 15 minutes later, I was hit with unbearable stomach pains and the urgent need to use the bathroom. Panicked, I hurried to the restroom, found an available stall, and locked myself in. As I was dealing with my discomfort, I noticed someone in the stall next to me, which happened to be the handicap stall. I assumed it was a little girl based on their shoes. Trying to distract myself, I glanced at my phone, hoping to pass the time. Suddenly, something caught my peripheral vision, a phone placed at the top of the stall door in front of me. The sight sent chills down my spine, making me acutely aware of the situation. Not the handicap stall, but the regular one, with the camera facing directly at me. An actual hand was holding the phone, capturing me in an incredibly vulnerable position. I felt an overwhelming sense of violation and fear. In my shock, the only thing I could think to do was scream, "What the hell are you doing?" The person immediately fled, and I heard the little girl in the stall beside me jump off the toilet and run away as well. By the time I managed to compose myself and leave the restroom, the person who had recorded me was long gone. I felt completely mortified and violated. I quickly approached one of the managers, recounting the horrifying incident. However, their response shocked me even more. They seemed indifferent to the fact that someone had invaded my privacy in such a grotesque manner. I pleaded with them to review the security camera footage to validate my claim and ensure my safety. After about 10 minutes, they came back, dismissing my concerns. They insisted that it was probably just a little girl joking around, taking pictures of random people in the restroom. I vehemently argued, explaining that the little girl was in the adjacent stall and had run out after I yelled. Despite my protests, they remained adamant that there was no one else in the restroom before or after me. Feeling frustrated and violated, I didn't pursue the matter further with the Walmart manager. Looking back, I can't believe I was gaslighted into thinking it was just some kid's prank. In the following days, upon deeper reflection, I realized the implausibility of that explanation. I became convinced that there was a sinister, voyeuristic individual lurking, possibly hiding in a supply closet in the bathrooms, secretly recording vulnerable women in compromising situations. The thought haunted me, fearing that I might be featured on some dark web website catering to people with such disturbing fetishes. Prior to that harrowing incident, I had also been followed by a car out of Walmart. The vehicle tailed me almost all the way to my house before I noticed and took evasive actions, driving around to confirm my suspicions. It became clear that I was being followed. In a moment of desperation, I pulled into a gas station and shouted, "This person is following me! Call the police!" The moment they heard my outcry, they quickly sped away. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good look at them, and I didn't file a police report. I strongly believe these two incidents were connected, and both left me deeply unsettled. Needless to say, I haven't returned to that Walmart since those terrifying experiences. Hey everyone, I hope you all enjoyed the stories. Have a good night, everyone. And remember to always stay hungry.